important and something we should incorporate regularly into our lives because of the multitude of health benefits. From cardiovascular to bone health, decreasing the risk of diabetes, etc., there are a number of great health benefits. But using health benefits as a motivator is unfortunately not a very compelling reason to go to the gym. It has been shown that having short-term benefits such as feeling better either during or immediately after a workout is a stronger incentive to get people to work out. Additionally, challenging yourself in a physical manner through regular exercise makes you a better person all around and carries through all aspects of your life, including your studies. Now here's the key point. Exercise forces you to learn to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I love that because it's so powerful. This applies to any sport or any athletic endeavor that requires regular training. As many top athletes have said, suffering in competitive athletics is inevitable, but being able to embrace the uncomfortable situation is paramount to success. This is not just in exercise, but in other aspects of your life as well. Public speaking used to be one of my biggest fears, and I absolutely hated it any time that I had to go up and speak in front of an audience. But by learning to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and by getting outside of my comfort zones, I was able to address this weakness and even learn to actually enjoy public speaking. Another example, I have learned that when I feel the burn during exercise, or pain or discomfort, instead of running away from it and trying to escape it, I practice mindfulness. I look at it curiously, almost from a third-person perspective, intrigued by what I'm feeling rather than letting it control my thoughts. You can see this happen in action by doing something as simple as planks. So I'm going to challenge you to try doing a regular plank and time yourself. Now do it again, but this time don't let the burn consume you, and instead watch it curiously, almost from a third-person perspective. See how much longer you can go. So how does this help you as a student? Research shows that regular aerobic exercise enhances cognitive functions, particularly executive functions. Here's a study from the International Journal of Sports Medicine. The link to the article is in the description below. Another study published in 2006 in the Journal of Health Psychology showed that participants who went from not exercising at all to even a modest program of 2 or 3 visits per week demonstrated decreased stress, smoking, alcohol, and caffeine consumption. Their spending and study habits improved and were overall able to improve their regulatory habits, meaning their ability to carry forward even when their body and mind is begging them to stop, enhance their ability to stay calm in the face of difficulties. This is closely tied to discipline, which you guys already know I'm a huge proponent of. Discipline and self-regulatory behavior allows you to achieve something that you set out to do at a prior moment in time, even when you don't want to do it at a later time. And like I said before, discipline is a muscle requiring regular exercise. If you practice discipline and go to the gym regularly and eat healthier, you'll find it much easier to follow a disciplined study routine. That alone will make a significant difference in your grades. Now, Charles Duhigg in The Power of Habit, which I have recommended multiple times on this channel, again, link in the description below, calls exercise a keystone habit, meaning this change in one area of your life can bring about positive changes in many other areas. These keystone habits are powerful because they change our sense of self and our sense of what is possible. As many of you have probably heard, you are the sum of your habits. Most of what we do day in and day out are simply repeated behaviors that are habits. Changing your habits is therefore one of the most powerful ways to change or improve yourself. Now,
okay, I'm going to go ahead and stop there. So this video, again, it just goes to show that exercise can help you get into the process of building those good, healthy habits. And we talked about even how it relates to writing and reading at a college level. We said that you can't approach academic reading or academic writing in the same way that you read for fun or would write for fun. So we were, again, all semester long, we're trying to like get some reps in, build our muscle, create some good habits that hopefully you'll take with you when you leave this class. So again, exercise is a good way to push yourself. And again, how he said, just to get comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. All right, so now we are ready to get started. Again, what I'd like for you to do today, we're going to continue working in Unit 2. Let me go ahead and hit record. Actually, before I hit record, I do want to remind you, one last thing with the announcements. This is week 7. So we have this week, and then next week is week 8. We have all of next week, and then it will be fall break. We have fall break is let me get the exact dates, is Monday, October 14th and Tuesday, October 15th. So we've got fall break coming up. Fall break is only 2 days in October because we get the other 3 days of that week at Thanksgiving. We get Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off at Thanksgiving. So you do get a whole week off in the fall semester, just like you get a whole week off in the spring semester, but they're just kind of split up. So you will have no classes on Monday, October 14th and Tuesday, October 15th. With that being said, that by the end of the day on Monday, October 15th or Monday, October 14th, I'll be posting midterm grades to my VU and putting them in to the VU system. Whatever your current grade in the class is at that point in time, I'm going to catch up with grading here and get everything in Unit 1, I believe, is graded now. Everything in Unit 2 will be graded by that end of the day on Monday, October 14th. That grade, again, will be your midterm grade in the class. I do want to remind you how to check in on your current grade in the class. If you go, let me do this. It'd be better if I do it this way. Here in Blackboard, if you go up to the top and you click Gradebook, you'll see right up here above the yellow line, up in the top right corner, what your current grade in the class is. You'll also be able to see what your individual grades on these assignments are. If there's anything that is missing, I recommend that you get those things turned in as soon as possible. Again, I'm looking to see that all of Unit 2 and all of Unit 1, along with our first 4 introductory assignments, that those will make up your midterm grade in the course. So if this is not currently where you want it to be, you can 100% get that corrected here in the next 2 weeks. So we've got that coming up. All right. Let me go back. Oh, sorry. Let me go ahead and hit record and then we'll get started. And that was the other thing I was going to say. In announcements, I do want to remind you too that when you go to announcements, there is a link to class recordings. And if you click on that link, any class that you've missed this semester, if you've been absent or you're working on an assignment and you want some additional help getting caught back up if you've fallen behind, you can go back in. Every single class that we've had so far has been recorded. You can go back in and watch the class. You don't have to watch the whole thing. You can skip through. It'll walk you through all of the screenshots, everything that we've done in class. So if you get to a certain part of something, an assignment that you're working on, and you want to go back and see those instructions again, you'll be able to pause, you can rewind, If you need closed captions on, like, you can, put those on. So all of that, you can have this open in one tab and have your Blackboard open in another. You can flip back and forth. So everything we've done in the course, again, it's all been recorded and it's available to you right here in this list. All right, now we're ready. So there is no midterm exam in this class, and there is no final exam in this class. So no midterm or final exams. You will, with the midterm and at midterm, we just take what your current grade in the class is. You take unit 0, unit 1, unit 2. All of those things go together to make your midterm grade. At the end of the course, we don't meet during finals week because we don't have a final exam, but you do have a final project that we work on at the end of the semester. So that week right before finals week, how we wrap up the course, there's a paper that you write where you explain what it is that you've learned so far in the course and how you've improved as a reader and a writer. So that's we do that the week before. And then we don't meet at all during finals week, no tests. So that's good. Little less stress on you. All right. So what we're going to do today, we're going to go back to unit 2. So I'd like for you to go into unit 2. We started talking about last week on Thursday, the summary and response essay assignment. And we started working on assignment 2.9. So I'd like for you to open up 2.9. I would also like for you, you may have to go back into unit 1 to go back to where we had our SIRS issue researcher link. And I want you to open up your article that you are working on. Okay. All right, so we started on this blue writing guide. We started taking notes, and I said that it was super important when you're going to write an essay, if you can get your structure lined out before you start. And we said that that's a thing that you can even, AI is pretty good at. You can even ask AI to help you come up with an outline for drafts to come up with. Like if I have to write a summary response essay, you can ask AI to help you like come up with what that structure of the essay should look like. And we've already come up with our structure. If you'll remember, we have an introductory paragraph. We have our summary of the article, which we've already done. And we have some body paragraphs. We have paragraph 3, paragraph 4, paragraph 5, paragraph 6 are all body paragraphs. And then we have a closing paragraph. So we're going to work on those body paragraphs today. We got started in class last week on Thursday, and then we wanted to stop. So before we let's talk about what we did at the beginning for this. We start off our body paragraphs with a topic sentence, and this is basically where you answer the question that was posed here. So in this case, our question was, did you mostly agree or mostly disagree with the author's opinion on the topic that you selected? Why or why not? So I've got a topic sentence here. And in that I need to state whether I agree or disagree with the particular claim. So I said that I agree with Austerlitz that homework is worth doing, even if it's challenging. And for each of these body paragraphs, we're going to select a quote that supports or relates to this answer. So if I'm saying that I agree with Austerlitz, I want to go through and find a quote that shows that is something that I agree with. So I agree with him that I am thankful to be granted the opportunity to walk alongside them as they commit to the work of learning. I enjoy seeing them overcome the initial impulse that if something doesn't come easily, it isn't worth doing. And I got this quote from my article. Right here. I got the quote right from the middle of my article there. So I've made a note that that's the quote that I probably agree with the most out of this article. I introduced the quote. I put in the article, he states. I have our in-text citation. I just put his last name because there's not a page number in the article here. And then we stopped. Okay, so that catches us up to where we were. I'm going to turn on this video here real quick. So I want to explain why we've got our body paragraph set up in this form. We're going to have a topic sentence, a context for the quote, introducing the quote, we insert the quote, we explain the quote, we connect to your response, and then we have a closing sentence. And we're going to have all of those pieces, those same pieces for all 4 body paragraphs. And this is why. Oh, you had a question? Oh, okay. This is why we do this.
If you are writing an essay about a novel, poem, or other written work, utilizing textual evidence is one of the most effective ways to prove your point. However, you cannot just drop a quote from the text into your essay and assume your audience will understand why it matters. In this video, we will go through how to effectively incorporate textual evidence into an essay using context, a lead-in, a quotation, an in-text citation, and an explanation. Let's say that you are writing an essay about John Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men, and your thesis, what you are proving in the story, is that multiple characters are lonely and isolated. To prove that George is isolated, you found this quote. Almost automatically, George shuffled the cards and laid out his solitaire hand. He used a deliberate, thoughtful slowness. By itself, the reader may not understand how this quote relates to your thesis. You can build upon the quote to have it make more sense to the reader.
So if you've heard, and I'm sure you've probably heard somewhere along in your academic career that for those, when you're using or incorporating quotes into your essays, that you want to have like a quote sandwich. So you want to have that quote kind of in the center of your paragraph, and you need to sandwich it with a context in front of it and an explanation here at the end. So what they're showing you here is if we started just with this quote, if I've never read Of Mice and Men, I'm not going to necessarily know what this quote is, who George is. I don't know any of the context of where it came in the story. This is what you call, again, a dropped quote. And if you're just, dropping it in there and not explaining anything. So it's very important that we sandwich that quote with our explanation at the end and some context in front of it. So let's continue here.
First, every quote needs a lead-in. A lead-in is a small addition to the beginning of the quotation to help set it up and have it make grammatical sense. One example of a lead-in could be, Steinbeck explains how. Another common lead-in is, the author writes, which requires a comma before the quote. If you do not include a lead-in, the quote is considered a dropped quote, which is grammatically incorrect. Next, you must include an in-text citation to state where the quote was found. If your essay is using MLA format, include the author's last name and page number in parentheses after your quote, but before the closing period of the sentence.
Okay, so you can see here, let me just tie this over to what we're doing on this blue guide. You can see here, we're going to have our quote right here in the, there we go. Our quote right here in the middle. The lead in is the quote introduction. So I'm going to say in the article, he states, and then I put my in-text citation there at the end of that quote.
If you mention the author's last name in the lead-in, you do not need to repeat it in your citation. Our quotation is looking good, but it still is not clear how this quote proves the thesis. We need to add some sentences before and after to set up and explain the quote. Beforehand, you must provide context to help the reader understand what is going on in the quotation. Some questions that should be addressed in the context include, when and where does the quote take place? Who is involved in the quote? And what events are happening in the story when this quote occurs? Imagine that the person reading your essay is not very familiar with the story, so you need to fill them in on some basic background information. For this quote, we could begin with, in the middle of the story, most of the farmhands vacate the bunkhouse when Curly is trying to find Slim. George and Lenny are the only characters remaining, and George sits at a table and takes out a deck of cards. These two sentences address when, where, and who is involved in this quote, along with what event leads up to it.
So we are going to be providing context for the quote right above the quote introduction. And this is again where you're going to address those questions, the who, when, where that they have here. You're going to put some context in there to explain to someone who's maybe never read the article that you read where this quote is coming from. You want to explain and give your reader that context.
After the quotation, an explanation of how the piece of evidence helps prove the thesis must be included. So, we need to answer the question, how does this quotation show that George is isolated? The key here is that we should not just explain what it proves, but it must be explained how it proves it. We could write, George is playing solitaire, a card game that is played alone. This shows that George is lonely and isolated because his friend Lenny is not intelligent enough to join George in a card game. So here is our completed section dedicated to the textual evidence that we found.
Okay, so again, you see here how we've provided the explanation there after the quote. We're going to be doing that same thing after the quote. We have an explanation where you're going to say why or how and why that quote proves what your topic sentence was saying. And then you're going to follow that up with a personal connection. This is your personal response. This is where your opinion comes in. And then you're going to have a closing sentence. And you're going to do this same setup for all 4 of those body paragraphs. So the best way to start off, I'm going to go ahead and exit out of that video because we're done with that. The best way to start off these body paragraph sections is by kind of creating a topic sentence, just like we did, inserting your quote, getting that quote introduction, and then you kind of work from the inside out, from that quote above and then from that quote after it. So let's start off here with this quote of mine, and you should have your quote in there from last week. What you're going to do for this quote, you're going to provide context. So if I were somebody who had never read this article before, and I'm looking at my quote, it says, "But I'm thankful to be granted the opportunity to walk alongside them." The person reading my essay is not going to know who them is. And who's I? It's not explaining that either. So right now, this is just kind of it's a dropped quote in there. So I need to explain who I is, that they're walking beside them as they commit to the work of learning. I need to explain who those people are. I enjoy seeing them overcome the initial impulse that if something doesn't come easily, it isn't worth doing. So, and when we're talking about work of learning here, I would want to explain that too. Yes.
Is there two quotes that were quoted?
Just one. Just one quote. Yep, there will be one quote for each body paragraph. So I need to explain here what is going on in the article, who I is, who they is, what they're doing in here. So I may say, I agree with Austerlitz that homework is worth doing even if it's challenging. In the article, he, and I can say he because I've got in the previous sentence, I'm talking about Austerlitz. He shares his personal experiences of doing homework with his children. That's who they is at home. So in this sentence, and it can be 2 or 3 sentences, yes. You still might want to give some kind of background on like where the quote that you have, and I'll look at yours specifically here in just a minute, but where that comes in the article, like when you pulled this quote, when I pulled this quote in the article, I need to give people an idea of what information, the people reading this, kind of what information came before this.
What I would choose to have something
Like I said, let me look at yours here in just a minute.
all right.
Okay. Once you have that, and again, it could be as simple as one sentence or not. And if you look here, I can kind of read through this paragraph that's being built. I agree with Austerlitz that homework is worth doing, even if it's challenging. In the article, he shares his personal experiences of doing homework with his children at home. In the article, he states, "But I am thankful to be granted the opportunity to walk alongside them as they commit to the work of learning. I enjoy seeing them overcome the initial impulse that if something doesn't come easily, it isn't worth doing." Then you need to explain the quote following this. You want to explain what the quote means and how that is significant to your argument. If my argument is, I agree that homework's worth doing, I want to explain what he means in this quote that helps prove that homework is worth doing. I had come up with something already here, so let me put this in here because I didn't want to take up too much time thinking time. So I've got in here, if I want to explain the quote, I say this quote highlights the importance of perseverance in learning. He is grateful to help his children push through difficult tasks, showing that that overcoming the urge to give up leads to growth and it's worthwhile. In arguing that homework is worth doing, even when it's hard, this quote is important. I'm explaining now why it's significant. This quote is important because it shows that effort, not ease, leads to real progress. It suggests that learning takes commitment, and homework, though sometimes tough, helps students build resilience and a deeper understanding. So I'm explaining, I start off here explaining the quote itself. I'm kind of putting this quote into my own words. I'm saying why he's mentioning it. It's because it shows how important it is to keep going. I also explain, he's grateful to help his children push through these difficult tasks, showing that overcoming the urge to give up leads to growth and it's worthwhile. And then I follow it up with why that is so important to this topic sentence that I agree with. Let me go ahead and tell you about these last two, and then I'm going to give you some time here to look at and type in some things with yours. So let me delete that quote. All right. Then once you explain the quote, then you're going to connect to your response. So this is, you want to show how the quote supports your view and how does it answer the question that you're addressing? How does this quote show that you agree or disagree with the author's opinion? Does it reinforce your agreement or disagreement with the author? So let me, again, I came up with this before class when I was preparing for class last night. Here. So this is again, my personal opinion is what's coming in here, my response. I said, Austerlitz shows that even when something is hard at first, sticking with it leads to growth, which makes a strong case for doing homework. My original opinion is I think homework's valuable. I agree homework is worth doing. So I'm tying this here. Austerlitz quote makes a strong case, or it demonstrates that it's important to do homework. And then I'm going to put my opinion. Does this reinforce my agreement or disagreement with the author? Here's my opinion. However, I think Austerlitz relies too much on his own experience with his children. While he sees the benefits of overcoming difficulties, not all families have the same experience with homework. Some families may struggle with time, resources, or support. So while I agree with him that homework can be helpful, his argument doesn't fully consider the challenges that other families might face. So this is just my personal opinion, my personal response to his including this quote. Okay, then we want to have a closing sentence where you restate your point, connecting to the overall argument of the essay. So again, this is where I want to basically restate my topic sentence, that I agree that homework is worth doing, even if it's challenging. So I might say, even though I don't agree with the evidence that Austerlitz, or it's not that I don't agree with, even though, let's do this, Austerlitz evidence have been stronger, I still believe that homework is worth. Yes,
Wasn't it between the topics that disagree? It almost looks like the same as you were doing.
yes, you are. That's kind of, you start off with that and then you kind of, you close with it, it'll be the same sentence kind of that you have here, except you want to paraphrase it. Like you don't want it to look exactly the same. You want it to kind of tie everything up.
So you almost reword it.
Yes, yes. Okay, so what I want you to do right now is I want you to spend about 10 minutes or so here working on your context, your explanation of the quote, connecting on that paragraph 3, and I'm going to go through and give some feedback and look at everybody's assignments here and see how you're doing on number 3. And then we'll start talking about paragraph 4 here in about 10 minutes. So I'm going to set the timer. Yeah, I'm going to look at yours. Yep. Okay, I'll look at it. Okay, the other thing is if you want to see my example, I do have that linked right underneath your assignment. So this example from class that I've done is linked there and you can take a look at it if you need to. All right. Zach, what was your topic? Was it just hunting?
My main topic.
Yeah, hunting. Okay. Zach, can you come here a minute? Oh, no, it's fine. Which one of these? Is, okay, so this is where you are.
Yeah, it's like,
Okay.
for some
Okay.
reason I had to look it up through the website to try to find it again.
It's fine. Okay. So
I think the title on her is something.
this is, yeah. This is what this
Mhm.
sentence is what you want to say whether or not you agree or disagree with. And then from the article, you're going to select something that demonstrates this,
So,
right? Because this is the side that you, so down here you want, and this is with, let me go back because I have this one.
I don't think I've seen the commands for copy and paste.
This is the big.
That's the summary, right?
Yep. This is mostly talking about the bighorn sheep, so. So. So you want to look in there. Maybe this one might be a good one.
So the third one,
Like actually, like maybe that whole thing there could be.
those two lines.
Yeah.
Oh,
Let me put those in there. That may be a good place to.
So should I put I agree or disagree? Or do I just base it off that?
So up here, you would say whether, basically whether you agree or disagree that,
Okay,
yeah, that this is not a good thing, and it's just, and it's helping to eradicate, to get rid of different species.
okay.
And then this could be,
My main quote.
mhm, mhm.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me- Okay, let me look.
Can I be in the middle about it? Because.
Mhm. Yes, yeah, I was in the middle about mine. Yeah,
All right, thank you.
you're welcome. Like, I agree with the idea, the original idea that, hey, this is homework's a good thing. But I also think that, like, his story of telling us about doing homework with his kids, like that's not everybody's story. That's not what doing homework with kids looks like for everybody. And so I just don't think like he could have made his argument better if he didn't just rely on telling stories about his own kids. Like if he would have included other information or, yeah. So you can explain in the middle where right here
Yeah.
is where you can be in the middle in that question, in that connect to your response.
For the topic sentence, can I be like, I'm not fully for or against, or should I just go?
Yeah, you could say I mostly agree with this idea, or I, mostly disagree. You don't have to be 100. Yep, 100%. Yours was fisheries, right?
This is the title, am I supposed to put in quotation? I should-
Mhm. Yes, yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay.
Carter, did you have sustainable fishing practices as your original or overfishing is a threat? Like back on when you were looking at the original viewpoints?
I think I was kind of in the middle on.
Which side did you select from though? When you selected,
The other topics,
mhm,
the top left.
okay. Okay. I want to go ahead and talk about the next paragraph so you all can continue to work on this as well. That way you'll be able to do paragraph 3 and paragraph 4 for homework. So in paragraph 4, I want to know what was the most interesting thing you learned in the article. So what quote did you find the most to be most interesting to you? Something that really you were like, huh, that really stood out to me. That's interesting. So again, you're going to start from the middle of your paragraph and you're going to work your way from the inside out here. So I'm going to put my quote. The thing I found most interesting was this quote. This Times Roman here. I found most interesting when Austerlitz said, getting to these moments requires that I remember my place. Where do I insert myself? And when do I stay quiet? I was instructed by my younger son's teachers to let him sound words out as he reads, rather than leaping in with the answer, and I oblige. These are the questions I belatedly realize that are about more than just homework, questions that I will undoubtedly return to again and again as my kids mature and they are required to solve their own problems, academic, social, emotional, and moral. So I find this interesting because this quote, it talks about the importance of when your kids are struggling with something in homework, to be quiet and let them wrestle with it a little bit and try to figure it out for themselves. And how as they get bigger and as I parent, that maybe I need to be quiet when it comes to things outside of school, like their social and emotional and moral figuring things out. Like I shouldn't just jump in and give the answer, but let them give them the opportunity at least to figure out the answer. So I found this really interesting. So I would want to go in here and say, I want to introduce that quote. We're going to do the exact same thing that we did here, that we did down here, or that we did up here. We're just going to model this. So for my topic sentence, I'd want to introduce the most interesting thing I learned from the article. So I might say, while reading the article, I liked how Austerlitz compared letting children struggle or have the opportunity to struggle and figure out answers on their own without a parent solving the problem to similar situations outside of academics later on in life. Like, and again, this doesn't have to be perfect now, social, emotional, moral. He knows that Maybe I just leave it at that. Then I'd want to provide some context for the quote. So I want to explain what was going on in the article here in the quote. I can introduce the quote, like Austerlitz says. I want to put I want to explain what this is, give my personal thoughts or opinions on it, and then restate my main idea again. So we've got about 6 minutes here in class. Let me go through. I want to give you some time to work on paragraph 3 and paragraph 4. And those two things are going to be homework. Do this later. This is not today. So I'm putting here, I want you to work on paragraph 3 and paragraph 4 for homework. When we'll come back to class on, whoops. Then when we come back to class on Thursday, we're going to work on paragraph 5 and paragraph 6. Looking through all of those. Yes.
Since mine is a quote from somebody else in the article,
Mm-hmm.
would I have to change my signal phrase?
Yes. So you might say, let me go back to yours. All right, here. Just a second. Yeah. So here, wait a minute, where are we at? This is down here, yeah. And then you can put your quote. Yep.
Actually, in the quote, it says clinically.
So there, instead of doing,
Or it just- it's two quotes.
yeah. That, just take that center part out.
Can I just copy and paste that?
Mhm. Okay, it's 9:15. When we come back to class on Thursday, we're going to spend a lot more time, instead of me demoing those paragraphs, I want you to have time on Thursday to really get all those body paragraphs filled out and to have me assist where you need help with those. So I will have demonstration stuff. I'll kind of briefly go over that at the beginning of class on Thursday for the next two paragraphs, paragraphs 5 and 6. I'll quickly go over those, and then I'm going to give you time in class on Thursday to work on all 4 of those body paragraphs, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I'm going to go through and give feedback while you're working. So Thursday will be a bigger work day for you. You'll have more time in here to work on it instead of just listening to me demo. So any questions? All right. You all are free to go. I will see you.